Welcome to another episode of the Matthews Mentality Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Matthews, and today we have an exciting guest who is redefining the influencer management industry. Listen up, everybody. You want to be an influencer, you're going to listen to this episode. Ted Raad. Ted is the founder of Trend Companies, a firm dedicated to reshaping how creators and brands collaborate. He saw early on that many agencies prioritize deal volume over quality partnerships, ultimately hurting their clients' long-term success. Determined to change that, he built Trend Management, an agency that puts creators first and later expanded into Trend Social, a full-service influencer marketing agency that connects brands with the right talent to drive real business impact. Ted's journey is a masterclass in entrepreneurship, innovation, and building a business with integrity. Today, we'll dive into his approach to the creator economy. I'm actually real interested to hear about this. Right?
Well, thanks for having me on.
The evolution of brand partnerships and what it takes to scale in a very competitive space. Ted, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
No, I'm excited. So I'm walking out of my office about to go to lunch with this guy, and I see on the screen Allison, who's sitting right over there, a picture of my cousin, Jake. He plays for the Falcons, but this was like on the Texas A&M. And I go, what is that? And Allison's like, well, this is Ted's website. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I was like, but why does he have a picture of Jake on there? Because Jake, if you're listening, is the furthest thing from an influencer, right? Just no personality whatsoever.
Yeah.
Just not a remarkable.
He's got personality if you get to know him. If you get to know him.
He's actually, he's sneaky funny.
Yeah, he's great.
He's very sneaky.
Yeah.
He's very smart. And so smart people, like if and when he decides to, he can hit you with a zinger.
Yeah, he does that all the time, actually.
But
maybe I'm too close with him. He does
but
it all
I'm sitting
the
there,
time.
I'm like, hey, why do they have a picture of Jake? And I was like, well, I think there might be a connection, but we do have a connection. Jake Matthews, his wife Maggie. So how do you know those guys?
So my wife actually went to school with Jake. So in the same class, they had classes together. That's how they known each other for a while.
Did Jake try and like hit on her or take her out?
I don't know. I didn't ask that question, but Jake's a reasonable guy where at the time I'm like, I wasn't really dating Dede, so who knows what was going on.
Yeah.
But no, I doubt it. Knowing Jake now, I doubt that was
You have
his
nothing
thing.
to worry about. Again, getting to his personality, he doesn't have any. So
I wasn't worried about it. It was pre-NFL
probably
days.
like, hey,
so, you know.
so like, you want to go out?
Yeah, probably. But they've known each other for a while, and then we actually
Was that Elkins High?
Elkins High.
Yeah.
That's where they went to school. And there wasn't actually any reason for us to. I didn't meet the guy until maybe 10 years later when we moved into a place called Sienna in
Sienna
Houston.
Plantation. That's right.
And he lived like right down the street. And it was, I think, Maggie, his wife, who had reached out to Dede or something. Somehow they're connected through all of it. Oh, also through Mikey and Haley. So that's also how they all
My
came back
cousin
together.
Mikey, yeah.
Yep.
So there's a whole crew down there.
Whole crew down there. So we all just started hanging out together. We traveled a bunch together.
They're good dudes to hang with.
yeah.
They could put back some beer.
Oh my! I have golf stories with those
Yeah.
two, but they make me look.
They could put some. They're big
lightweight.
men.
Yeah,
Big men.
yeah.
I like traveling
Makes
with
it-
them. I like
makes it
hanging with them
fun.
because it's like a squad. You know,
Yeah.
no one's messing with me.
Yeah, 100%.
O-lineman,
It does make it fun.
protectors. So were you raised in Houston?
Yeah. So there's a backstory to that a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
raised in Houston. My parents are actually immigrants from Lebanon.
Oh,
My dad came here on a scholarship to the University of Florida to do his residency.
sure.
So I was born actually in Gainesville while he was doing residency. Then he moved to Houston because he got a job at MD Anderson Cancer Center. So I've been long story short, in Houston since I was 2.
Okay.
So raised in Houston through and through. I've lived all over the west side of Houston. But yeah, raised in Houston, lived in Houston, lived in the Sharpstown area. I don't know if you're familiar with Houston.
No, I meant a little bit, but no, I don't know where Sharpstown is.
So raised in like a interesting area is what I'll call it in Sharpstown. My parents finally moved us out to the suburbs. That happened in high
burbs.
school. That's right. So then I went to Dulles, which is a competitor school to Elkins, kind of the
Okay.
same district, but like, so yeah, lived in Houston, started Trend in Houston,
You
worked
met
at
your
HP.
wife out there?
Yep. So my dad was also, I call him kind of an entrepreneur in his own right. So he, as being a doctor, he has a nonprofit, and he also was a pastor of an Arabic church. So we actually met at church, at that
Oh.
church. So what I like to say is at that church, there weren't many guys there. So I felt like there was not much picking for Dede. So there,
Yeah.
voila.
There you go.
Yeah.
So your wife, Dede, she's an influencer.
She is,
You
yeah.
want to tell the audience, what does she do? Forgive me. I'm sure my wife
Her,
knows.
yeah, 100. No, it's okay. So sometimes I don't even know, right?
Yeah.
But she's in fashion and lifestyle. I think it's what the category she would be in. But really, what she does is she just shares, I would say, affordable fashion finds for women in that are looking for everyday wear. And she also does a lot of lifestyle stuff. So, you know, her kids, her aunts that are on it, my family that gets on it. It's just kind of like a wild goose chase on stories.
You
So
know, I'm sure I'll ask you this as it relates to the business you run, but like, how do you fall into, or is it an actual strategic choice? And in this case, speak for your wife here, is like to become an influencer.
Yeah, she actually has an incredible story because she decided to become a blogger. It was before it was influencing, when she had no idea if there was money in it at all. She just needed a creative outlet. So she was married. We got married when she was 20. And so she was still in school. So we still had to pay some of the bills. So she got a job. And her job at the time was being a wedding planner at this place called Chateau Cocomar. Not sure if it's still there or what it is. But she did that for a few years. Then she graduated. And in Houston, what are your typical jobs to get if you want to be in events? Oil and gas. And she was miserable. I mean, she's used to the creative space of, designing and putting things together. And then all of a sudden, for an events for an oil and gas for a bunch of dudes, what do? She brought like 3 coolers of beer. It's all they wanted.
Who's that guy? You know that show, that Landman?
Yeah.
Such a good show.
Yeah.
Billy Bob. She's dealing with guys like that.
100%. She loves Landman, by the way. She reminds me of Texas. I'm like, well, you were in it for a little while.
That's right.
The industry took a turn in 2015. And they actually offered to move her position. So like she didn't want to do events anymore. They moved her to like trucking or something. And she didn't like it to begin with. So she says she was laid off. That's a lie. She was offered a different position. She dipped. And then from there, I was working at HP. I probably was 3 years into my career. Hewlett Packard. Okay. 3 years into my career there.
What were you doing there?
I did a little bit of IT to start, and then I was always in IT, but like in different spaces. So I was in IT, but in mergers and acquisitions towards the last like 3 years I was there. Traveled a lot to South Korea for the Samsung merger. That's how I kind of got into negotiations, did my MBA while I was there. And that's kind of like developed in that. That's how I kind of came into feeling confident into doing something like this.
Let's lead into, how did you get into the influencer industry in space?
Yeah, so I think it all ties together, actually. It's like one interesting story. So then she decides that she wants to do something creative. She actually chooses photography. And she didn't know anything about photography, but she knew that she wanted to get a job. Or she knew that we needed money in some capacity. So then she said, I'll try to do this for a little while. Did she know anything about photography? She didn't. But she grabbed a camera, creative outlet. On the side, she wanted to do this blogging thing. And the first discussions we had was, well, how does blogging make money? And she goes, I have no clue, but I'm going to do it and let's just see what happens. And that was like her side gig from her photography thing. So her photography thing was like the cash flow, and the blogging thing was like something she did on the side.
And photography was just like
family portraits, a kid graduating, whoever would pay her, she would take it. Yeah. And I was the guy in the background, like holding the thing up for the sun and doing the whole thing. So it was like a second job. For me for a little while. But over time, that's when her blog started to take off. And then her blog ended up.
And what was the blog about? Just
fashion. Okay. Yeah. So the deals of the day, fashion, what outfit she's wearing, why it works, certain patterns that work together. I mean, she could tell you more about it than I could on what was working. But that's essentially how she kind of started her career. And at that time, social media was different. Instagram was just photos, and it was just a place where you posted photos to say, hey, please visit my website. So it wasn't a place where Instagram was its own like website. If that makes sense. You use it as a catalyst.
What year was this?
This is 2015.
2015, okay.
So that's how she built she decided to use Instagram, any social media platform at the time. That's how she built it up. And over time, she eventually started building an audience on Instagram by itself. And then 2017, she all of a sudden got like a $2,000 deal from somebody. And she looked at me and she said, I told you I could make money. And I was like, what is happening right now? So they sent over this huge contract. And she's like, what do I do with this contract? I'm like, I can review the deals and terms of this contract, but I have no idea
what was it for? Was it like to put a post for some clothing item?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So it was actually her first real like legitimate big offer was from Nordstrom. And they wanted her to go into the store during that next month, pick 3 outfits, and she would share those on her social media page. That's all it was. I think she had to do 2 shares that month or something, a guarantee of 2 posts. So she did it. She accepted it. The only problem that we didn't know was her rate right? We had no idea at the time. So I think she had 120,000 followers. We didn't know what her rate should be. We had no idea what the market looked like.
So what do you just make it up?
Well, they send their offer first. If you know negotiations, they're kind of creating that baseline, right? Yeah. And so then you're like, is this a good one? Are they shooting low? Are they shooting high? So yeah, you make it up. You counter offer, see if they say yes. You want to work with them again. So you're like, you want to play nice the first time. So we kind of like find this little middle ground.
Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So then you try to build it up a little bit. So then we decided we were going to get her a management company. Or if we wanted her to sign with a management company. Because what a management company should do, they should know the market. If you're managing 100 creators, you should have a pretty good idea of what the rates are across all the brands that are working with them. You have a pretty good set price on rate.
So where do you find a management company? Did you just Google like social media management companies at that time?
I think that the reputation of management companies are starting to build on social media. So Dede had her eye on a few.
Okay.
And the way that happens is like, just like in NBA or NFL terms, if somebody signs with CAA, you're like, oh, I know CAA is a reputable name because they rep so-and-so, right? Or they've repped so-and-so's. Like you just know that's a reputable name. Same thing in the social media industry. Creators would sign with the same, big creators would sign with the same management company. So that would always be an aspiration for a lot of these creators. Like, hey, they signed with so-and-so. That's who they wanted to go with. So Dede would wait until she could be able to sign with this big management company. There's a lot of other management companies that came in that offered to manage her. She just said no, and she waited for that big time to come. So in 2018, that big management company came in, and they said, we negotiated the terms, what it would be like. They would work with her exclusively. She was very excited. And then what we found out pretty quickly is that they were, I'll put it like this. So Dede is an influencer. She gained her followers not because they know her from anywhere else, right? Mm-hmm. So like, let's use Jake, for example.
Yeah.
Jake, if you follow him on social media, it's because you know him from
football.
Yeah, football. That's it, right? If you know Dede, you don't know Dede because of social media. That's it. Like she doesn't have another way to gain followers. The way she gains followers is being authentic to her audience, putting the right stuff online that people love, and that they'll come back and check her stuff again. And if you don't have that, then it's not like she's going to go to a concert and sing professionally and someone's going to love her for her singing and come and follow her. So she has to build that authenticity. So the deal flow that was coming in from this management company was good. There was a lot of good money there, but they were upset. Like a great example was at the time she got a $20,000 offer from Payless Shoe Stores. Now, my opinion is take that, right? Like if that's well more than I would make in a month at HP. It's probably like a quarter of my salary time when I was working at HP. So I was like, hey, great opportunity, take it. And she says, I've never posted anything from Payless in my life. I've always posted from places like Nordstrom. And if I take this Payless offer, then they're going to be like, you're selling out. Like they're just going to see through that.
Yeah, it takes some discipline,
Yeah, 100%. So in her mind, she was very focused on what the long-term value would be for her business if she was authentic to her audience and had more retention of who was following her and gain the loyalty that way, than losing them for what I would assume is at the time for us, a lot of money. It still is. So I think that's part of the feel there.
Was that feeling like maybe the management company wasn't really either listening or understanding your wife's creative direction at the time? Was that the catalyst for you starting your own thing?
I think the catalyst is when she declined, they started to get upset.
Oh, okay.
And for what I've always told even creators on our roster, like if we get a deal for you, we're sending it. And we'll also be very transparent on like, is this organic to your audience or not? And frankly, if you decide to take it, then, you got to do what's right for you, right? Like we're not going to tell you not to take anything. But at the same time, we're on board for understanding the long-term vision of who this creator is. Because you may have 200,000 followers right now or 50,000 followers right now, but with the algorithm hitting the way it is, you could have 5 million in the next 6 months. And then all of a sudden, we really can have leverage on what campaigns you want to get and get the right value for what you're trying to accomplish. So we never get upset with any of our creators for declining, as long as it's authentic to who they are. That management company was, because there was like 5 or 6 of those deals that she declined, and she would take like the $3,000 one from somebody that she knows her audience will love. And for them, they're like, hey, you're leaving a ton of money on the table. They work on commission. So they're not very patient about it. Dede was getting a little bit upset that they were getting impatient about it. So just ended up not being right. So I would talk to her. My next thought after that was I'm going to go talk to her friends and see where they're being managed by. And they all had the same complaint across the industry. Like, I'm just feeling pressure from my management company to take deals that I don't want to take. And I feel like every time they feed it to me, if I say no, I might not get any deals anymore because they're like, why would I? They're just going to decline it anyways. And none of them really saw the play of like, if you take the right campaigns that's right for your brand, you build a loyal audience, you're going to get 3-4x over the course of 2-3 years if you just stay authentic to that. So that was really the catalyst. Like starting Trend, there was management companies out there. There was a ton of management companies out there. I think it was just I saw a need in the industry, and I also being a husband in the industry, a frustration of like, why wouldn't they just see the picture here? Why are they missing the point? You
probably had a different lens.
Yeah. And that's what I think makes us a little different, is the lens in which we come from. Like we come from a place where we've been on that side of the table. Like I see what it looks like for a creator to go through this. And a lot of times without a management company, it's very lonely. Like you just don't know if your rate's right. You don't know if someone's taking advantage of you. You don't know what the deal structure should be. And so part of it was like they for sure need a management company. But then when you join one and it's frankly not any good or any good experience, then you're like, well, we'll just take it back in house. So I think at the end of the day, it was just an opportunity for us to jump in. I had no idea it was going to scale to where it was today. My plan was just to work with Dede and a few of her friends, and if I could offset my salary in the next year and a half, then I felt pretty good about being, working for myself than working for
What
HB.
is the scale? Share with the audience. You founded Trend Management 2019.
Yeah.
January 2019. Fast forward, what is that, 6 years to today, roughly?
Yeah.
What is the size and scale?
So right now so in 2019, I started January 7th, 2019. I started with 3 influencers. Right now in whatever today's date is, 2025, we're at 130 influencers, 85 employees. We also, for our Trend Social division, work with roughly 30 brands on their marketing channels to help them with influencer marketing. So
30 brands. So you have 130 influencers, and then
there's
again, I'm
so in real estate, you have buyer and seller.
Yes.
So in this case, the buyer in this case would be actually the brands, and the seller would be the creator. Now, a lot of buyers kind of can do it themselves; they can figure it out, or they hire their in-house marketing team and they can figure out which creator to go after. A lot of them, they don't have that in-house, and they're saying, "Well, we want to work with influencers. We have no idea how. Somebody help us." So we then have an agency that helps brands to figure out which influencers they want to cast on that side.
Understood.
It's 2 totally separate businesses. So if you're on the trend management side, you're not going to be also somebody who's managing a brand on the social side. So it's pretty much its own separate entity underneath the Trend company's umbrella.
What is the size? You may not know this. What is the size of this industry? The industry being the influencer industry. Like how much money is going from effectively buyers, right, using your vernacular, to the seller, the influencer?
Yeah, I don't have
any given year. Like, what's the TAM?
I feel like I could look this up because it keeps growing year over year, but it's in the billions. So I just don't know how many billions that is, and I bet we can look that up.
I'm gonna chat GPT this.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
now.
do it really quick, and you can find what it looks like. But it's projected to grow again every year. So it's just it's not an industry that's slowing down. It's also continuing to evolve over time. And I think that brands that are not in the influencer space need to figure out how to get in the influencer space. They're going to be behind, especially in 3 to 5 years. And it's just an avenue where the opportunities to jump in are 250 billion. Yeah, I said billions, right? So almost a quarter trillion.
So 250 billion, that's what the ChatGPT says. I wonder how much that's growing. It's got to be growing like crazy. 500 billion in
so double in 2 years.
2, 3, yeah. That's what I figured.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's wild.
Yeah. So it's a space that's going to continue to grow. I don't think it's going to stop at 500 billion. It's growing double every 2 years. You can imagine what it's going to be in 15, 20. And if you think about our kids, they're going to live in a social media world. Yeah. You and I didn't live in a social media world. No. Like I didn't even live in a cell phone world when I was a kid.
I didn't live in a social media world until 2 years ago.
Yeah, we had that conversation over lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's, the influencer space is growing. And I think there's always been a need to have a managing company that's kind of what we do and a brand company that's kind of what we do. So we just kind of found a nice little spot in there. And I think we've changed the industry in a fun way. And it's
are like your competitors, I'm sure there's some smaller ones. When I think, just haven't been in LA so long, like CAA, is that one of the bigger ones? And that's,
I would say CAA is of course a big one. And when it comes to celebrities and musicians and athletes, like that's where I think that they would sign if they were going to sign with an agency, just because they feel like they can do multiple things for them.
Joe Biden, I saw Joe Biden just sign.
I did. Yeah, I got a text from my team this morning. It was like, how come we didn't pitch to him? And I was like, I don't know why.
You want to talk about a frustrating client, you'll serve up some like gray deal and he just sleeps right through it.
Yeah.
Come on, we're having fun here.
Yeah.
Come on. Good time.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe.
Yeah. So that I think CAA, so if you think about the realm of where we are, there's what I would say the mid-sized creator management space, which I think we fall under now. So like last year we did close to 13,000 campaigns. And so a smaller company would probably do maybe 1 to 2,000 campaigns. So I think we've well overachieved on that space. And I think somebody like CAA, maybe they're working on bigger clients, so the campaigns are less, but the value is maybe much bigger. But so I don't think we'll ever turn into a CAA. CAA will most likely want to acquire a company like us. Like they're not going to figure out how to get into our space. Yeah.
So did you, I want to spotlight you for a second here. You ever wake up like, man, how the hell, like you're an IT-ish guy working at Hewlett Packard. Fast forward, you're the CEO of a creative influencer social media platform. Like those are very two different worlds. Is ever like, what the hell? I mean, you walked us through how it happens. It sounds very organic and the story makes a lot of sense now having heard it, but are there ever mornings where you're like, what am I doing? You know, like,
I think it happens all the time. I mean, like, okay, so every team meeting I have, we have all 85 employees jumping in, and every time we like log in for it, or we're in whatever space we're in, it just shocks me that I'm able to employ 85 people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, no, not anywhere close to where you are, but in my head, it's just weird to think that I was in my bedroom, 2019, hoping that this thing will take off, and now I have a group of people that I guess are depending on Trend for their checks. And it's a bizarre feeling. I'm very humbled by it a lot. I'm very thankful that I'm put in this position. So the stressors that I have now is making sure that we can allow this to be a fun and unique opportunity for people that work at Trend. But yeah, I always tell people I never envisioned myself starting a company. I always thought I would start a company, but I didn't think it would be in this fashion and lifestyle influencer space that all of a sudden boomed, right? Where I know more about maxi dresses than I do about sports.
Would your friends in high school say you were fashionable?
Absolutely not. I don't think I'm still fashionable. I think that the fashion industry needed a business side.
So that's funny. So not the most fashionable in high school.
No,
I wrote that down. But did you said something like, I always thought I always knew I wanted to start a company. What do you mean by that?
I think I always felt that I was. I love to build. And so I think part of me is just at the excitement of building something. And so even when I was at HP, I'd love to start jumping into new divisions, or the whole thing I mentioned about being an M&A for South Korea. Like when they were like, who wants to go to South Korea?
You said me.
I was like 100% me. Like, this is a whole new thing where I'm going to learn a whole new avenue. It was like a little sub team that went. And I just loved being a part of that whole process.
Barbecue, baby.
Oh God, it's good. I always say South Korea is like it's an Asian Texas.
Yeah,
they love fried chicken, they love barbecue, they love beer, they love golf, and they love baseball. And it's just like,
I've never been. I gotta go. But
if you're gonna go to, have you been anywhere in Asia? If you haven't, and if you have, South Korea is the best starting point. I think it's to just go have some fried chicken.
But I've been to Koreatown in LA.
Might as well be,
same
right?
Thing, right? Get that kimchi fried rice, right? It was good.
Yeah, I haven't had it in Koreatown in LA, but
it's pretty good.
Now I need to go check it out.
I think the largest population of Koreans outside of the Korean Peninsula is in Los Angeles, in Koreatown.
Really? Well, I believe that.
Maybe close to 1 million of them.
Holy.
Yeah. I mean, look, when you're in real estate in LA, that's like what I grew up doing.
Yeah.
You gotta know all these things. Yeah. And it's like, you can't just, let's say that's 10% of the city, like Koreatown, and most of the, there's a lot of Koreans who own the buildings. You can't just say, well, I'm not going to worry. You gotta speak the language. You gotta eat that kimchi.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
That's where you got your culture.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. Listen, pounding the pavement in LA, there's, all those different communities, and it really was one of the best blessings of that job. Like, you just get exposed to all different types of things that you normally in a traditional career path, like, you call an owner and you're like, I'll meet you at the building, and you go to a part of the city. There's so many different ethnicities in Los Angeles. And there really were like, there's like little Tokyos, Chinatown, there's Koreatown. And like, even within there, there's subsets, like smaller communities that you wouldn't necessarily have heard of.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. It took me a year or two to, kind of try and understand where the connections were. But once you did that, like, it's just like anybody, you just, figure out ways to add value to. For me, it was real estate. For you, it's, social media influencing. So,
it's kind of like Houston, though. I feel like LA is
Houston is super. Yeah. I mean,
Houston's very cultured. Moving to Nashville, I was like, where's all the good food?
Yeah.
And I think they're
getting
more.
there.
They're getting there. But
when I got here in 2019, it was like hot chicken and barbecue. And you're like, okay, I eat that like once a month.
Yeah.
Right?
There are some good spots that are popping up.
They're popping up. Some good sushi. Like, I miss that about LA. LA had great sushi. But no, Nashville's, it's almost on the map. You just got to get some more influencers to move here.
Yeah.
So your clients are all around the country, right?
Yeah, we're all over the country. I think we kind of dominate the Southeast. That seems to be our strong, sector of the market.
Do you have a focus within the clients? Is there like a genre that because your wife's fashion, is there?
I think we started off that way.
Okay.
So we started off very heavily on fashion and lifestyle, is what we would say. So we started off heavy on fashion and lifestyle. Then because of that, we basically started to dive into different verticals, and then we just continued to kind of evolve into different things. So the home space, like the dad space, I talked to you a little about that earlier. Is there any place in athletes? Like we just keep trying to test new things to see what's working. And just like with any other niche, I think it's just finding the right creators in each, and then you'll hit a right spot. But yeah, now we're across maybe 6 or 7 of those.
I want to circle back to something you said. You said, I always knew I wanted to start a company, but you took a job, which again, no judgment, on the surface seems like a very safe, secure, non-entrepreneurial job of like IT at HP. Why did you make that decision? What was the driver at that time, the motivation for choosing that?
I think honestly, the biggest reason was purpose. I would like to say there was a reason for me to do it. It wasn't just like, let's just start a restaurant and see what happens. I think when I saw the problem, I was more motivated to take the risk. Because when I started in January 7th, 2 weeks before that, Dede had just told me she was pregnant with her first. So there's a lot of things happening at once. Yeah. And the conversation I had with my dad, like Middle Eastern families, when you're going to college, there's 3 careers you can choose. There's an engineer, there's medicine, and if you're not good at either and you're a failure, it's business. So like that's kind of like the avenue I took. Like I didn't care for medicine, didn't care for engineering. I was like, here am I going to business? But then I found a good secure job at HP, and now all of a sudden I'm quitting when a baby's on the way to start this company that my dad is like, social media, what's that?
Yeah, I bet that conversation was great.
Yeah, but I didn't know how to, I kind of told him like, look, Dad, I know the industry, I know the market. I'm pretty sure that as far as like my own salary, I can recoup it in 18 months. And then on top of that,
with the amount of money that influencers can make, and it's like, is your dad at any point be like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah. I think he had that. At first he was like, why would you do this? And I think, so he has a nonprofit, and I donate to the nonprofit. And so I think over time he's been like, whatever you're doing.
Okay.
Yeah. Good luck. Thank you. Good job. So I think over time he's definitely, I think, respected it. I don't think there was any disrespect at any time. It was just hard for him to believe that. And I think this is the generation before too. Like you went to a job and you stayed there for 40 years. Like my dad got hired at MD Anderson. He's still there. So like that's just how he's always basically lived his life and his career. So for me to move in something that's a space that he doesn't understand, in a space that's actually fairly new, because it didn't really boom until COVID.
And you see it, and you said Middle Eastern. I think this is true about, you see it in Asian fams. You see it in Indian fams, especially in the first generation immigrants or the kids of first generation immigrants. They're coming from places in the world, I'm generalizing here, but like on average, there's more financial insecurity and instability in the places on average that they're coming from. So when they come to America, you say, well, hey, you're going to become a doctor. Like you're going to the medicine, or an attorney or an engineer, because they're high paying. Yeah. But they're super safe and stable, generally speaking.
Yeah, and they're respectable too. I think there's some of that as well.
And so when you're like, hey, my dad stayed at the same place forever, it's probably because it's kind of a counter reaction to maybe where he grew up, and there was, turmoil in Lebanon, where he's like, when you get to America and he has that education, he's like, I'm just taking the safest, most stable, provide my kids a lifestyle, and ultimately provide you the choice to make that type of
100%.
Leap of faith, so to speak.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things I touched on was I was trying to, is like you said, hey, I want to start a company, but your first career decision was to go to IT at HP, which again, might have been more along the path that your dad might have approved of.
Yeah.
When you chose that as a career, was there this like, was part of your motivation safety, security, stability, or were you always like, gosh, like, yeah, I guess I like IT, but like this isn't necessarily what I really want to do with my life?
Yeah, I don't even know. So I majored in MIS in the business school, and I think what I realized about MIS, where I could carve myself out from everyone else in my class, is that they just weren't people, right? Like they had a hard time dealing with people. They understand the technology, everything else, but there was a lack of people that could actually, talk with people, negotiate, be friendly, personality. Yeah. So I think me going to HPIT, one, the offer was good out of college. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you're 20, 22, you're just like, wow, this is a great offer. I'll take it. And next, I knew that HP was a stable company, and I knew that they needed IT long-term. So it was some of that safety and security, right? I felt like, let me just get my foot off the ground. I honestly, based on, if you know anybody at HP, they're kind of lifers there too. They've been there for a long time.
Yeah.
Like my boss at the time was there for 25 years. And, he had another guy that was, my other boss was there for like 30 years. Everyone was just there for a long time. People that I knew at HP after I've left, it's been 6 years so far. They're still at HP. Like they've kind of built this, we'll take care of you long-term mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know what was going to be next, but they took care of me every year. And every year that I was like, hey, I'm not happy with my salary. I mean, it was just like very instant that I was able to get what so I didn't feel like I was in a place that was.
So you weren't being tortured to be there. It really came down to you seeing what you felt was an opportunity or a inefficiency in the influencer management space. That was the catalyst.
Yeah. And I knew at the end of the day, my goal in life, it was always to have, to work for me to decide how much I wanted to work and how much I didn't want to work, so to speak. And I think, now I'm learning being an entrepreneur, you can't really decide that. But part of me, like, always wanted to work for myself. I always felt that even at HP, I was outrunning the people that were ahead of me, but I had to wait for something to happen to them to move to get to where I wanted.
Wait in line
right.
aspect.
And so I felt like at the time I had potential to do much greater things, but I was kind of capped at where I was. So I think the drive also to work for myself, where I could be uncapped, but at the same time, a lot more risk, felt very appealing, especially in the phase of life that I was in. We worked very hard to not have any debt. So that also helped me be very free in the decision to be able to move flexibly without feeling the risk of, and I didn't have any children at the time, although I heard, 2 weeks before I started it.
So 2 weeks before you saw you hear you're having a kid, and then I actually will fast forward 1 year after you started, a little thing called COVID happened. Now, most people who sit in that chair, I almost always bring up this period because as a business owner, I went through it. It was wild. And looking back, you're like, it's no big deal. But it didn't feel like that at the time.
Right.
But for your industry, and I don't want to lead you here, it might have been a good thing. Did people spend more time on their phone ordering off the internet? Like, how did that affect your business?
Yeah, I think we kind of call it the COVID boom, at least in the creator space. Of course, when COVID first came out, everyone was just worried if they were going to survive or not. Like, you didn't really know what was going on based on everything you heard. So being a business owner, first 2 weeks, I was just kind of like trying to settle the nerves of my team, even though I wasn't really confident on what I was saying at the time. But we realized quickly that everybody that was not in the influencer management space, everybody that had a brick and mortar and did not have a strong e-commerce, moved quickly to e-commerce, and they didn't know how to sell on e-commerce. They used influencers to do it.
Okay.
So, I mean, from 2019 to 2020, we grew, I think, 5x just that 1 year, but not because we grew more influencers, because our influencers grew a lot. And more people were on social media, more people were following influencers. TikTok became a real thing during COVID. Like, there's all of a sudden was this boom of what was going on. So, I think COVID was a huge help in that space, and it helped build the reputation of influencer marketing. I think it also pressured brands to pivot quickly to not be so reliant on brick and mortar. And now I think people are trying to be reliant without going to retail and just going direct to consumer. So
yeah, as a retail broker, that breaks my heart. Right? Is the best retailers actually leverage both. Yeah. They understand, and if they didn't, they're extinct, respectfully, but they understand the value of e-commerce. But then they also tie, it's called omni-channel, to the brick and mortar. Because one thing we also learned in COVID is people want to go outside and people want to be around people. 100%. Not all the time and not for everything. But there's absolutely a place for e-commerce, and a very big place growing. There's still, and in my opinion, always will be a place for brick and mortar. It may never be as big as it was, right? Because there was no alternative to order online. It's there the next day. If it's not something you need right away, or not something you want to taste, touch, feel.
Right.
But there's still a lot that you want to get out, especially experiential retail. Let me ask you platform questions. You mentioned TikTok. I'll touch on that in a second with what's going on there. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Obviously there's the LinkedIns and the Twitters. Like, how does your focus break down? Like, where do you find the biggest opportunities for influencing, or where do you get the biggest response to what you're being hired to influence people on?
Yeah. So the way that I like to explain it is Instagram has all the data that brands like to see. So when you post a story, you can put a link out and people can click the link and people are able to track that. That is very appealing to brands to know exactly what's happening when they post something out there. They can really clearly see a ROAS tied to it. TikTok has the viral aspect to it, but you don't really know the return on it. And the way I say TikTok is kind of like it's like putting money on a billboard, and you just hope there's traffic that day. People are just staring at the billboard.
Yeah.
But TikTok, you don't know also that translates to sales or what. So it's kind of tricky also to figure out how that.
Why doesn't TikTok just do what Instagram does?
No, they should. I mean, I don't know why they don't do it. I think that like that's the best way to do it. If they could figure out links, then we would love that because we could really cross-sell a lot more to TikTok. TikTok, I think, just wants to be their own unique platform, and they try to do their own way of doing links. Like they want to control it.
They're unique, all right.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
You guys have been watching the news
They're
lately.
unique. What's going to happen with TikTok?
I think they're going to be forced. I mean, they're still going to be forced to sell, but I think that they're going to change hands in some capacity. I don't know if it's a full ownership switch or it's a half ownership switch or some kind of something's going to happen there. I think if they're going to proceed to operate,
we'll see if it's part of Trump's talks with, I think yesterday announced.
Yeah, didn't he post something?
10% tariffs on China, and then today they announced tariffs back, and maybe TikTok is part of this big deal that they're going to work out. But it'll be interesting because really the U.S. is in a unique position in that they actually passed a law. We're not a dictatorship. They passed a law through House, through Senate, and the Supreme Court upheld it, which is like they have to divest.
Right.
National security concerns, okay? So the Chinese Communist Party has to divest. So it has to be sold. But Donald Trump said, he saw in a press conference the other day, he's like, that thing's worth nothing without us. And so he's like, I have the ultimate leverage. Like I could buy it for $1. It's $1 more than they'll get. Because unless we bless it, and so then the Chinese, like, we'll see if they'll die on the hill. They're like, you know what? Like,
I think that was part of it too.
Could we sell this for, 10 billion, 50, 100 to someone, and some money's better than none? But they might be like, no, we're just not going to give you effectively that they're going to monetize. And then he announced this sovereign wealth fund. I think he signed the executive order yesterday. And one of the first things they're look to put in it is the TikTok, where it's like they'll go out and joint venture with a billionaire or some wealthy, some well-capitalized company, and they'll be like a 50% owner, and the U.S. is now an investor. It's a really fascinating time in general, a sovereign wealth fund, a trade war. And in your space, like that was the feedback I heard was like, hey, there's a bunch of influencers whose livelihoods depend on this, and that directly affects your business. Yeah,
and I think the amazing thing about the influencer space, which I like to tell a lot of people that I think hate on the space, are like, oh, this influencer thing is going to boom. This is the first industry ever to where women don't have a ceiling on what they could earn potentially. I know that people complain about it all the time. Well, there's actually a place that exists to where there's a direct correlation between the opportunities that they have in this space and how much they can grow determines how much revenue they can potentially make. So it's a really interesting place for I think moms in that space. And I also think in the same right, TikTok, people have had their whole careers put on TikTok.
Yeah.
And we tell all of our creators, you don't own TikTok, you don't own YouTube, you don't own Instagram. You better diversify.
Sure.
Because if you don't, TikTok goes down, you put all your eggs in one basket that you have no control over. Like you don't even get voting shares on it, right? Like you have nothing you can do on that. So you rather diversify your platform as much as you can, find a way to bring TikTok audience to Instagram, find a way to grow your Instagram audience, find a way to get Instagram even to TikTok. Like I don't know what Zuckerberg is going to do in 3 years. Like who knows what's going to happen. So you just need to be able to diversify your platform as much as you can, so you're not just stuck on these platforms you have no control over.
That's a good point.
I mean, the only thing you have control over is your website. No one's really going to blogs anymore. So
not really.
You have to find a way to live on these platforms. So
where do you see though? I asked this question, and is it kind of spread evenly? Is it a generational thing, like whether people prefer YouTube or TikTok or Instagram?
I think it's a generational thing. I think if you ask around, I think that Gen Z
Parents
and young millennials,
like
oh my God, parents love Facebook. It's where I get all my updates with my parents and their friends and what's going on. I think millennials are real strong on Instagram. I think millennials as well are tapping into TikTok a lot, but Gen Z, they love TikTok. And that's really, whenever we work with brands and they want to tap into Gen Z audience, the first thing they think in their heads is TikTok. Like they don't even think twice about it. Like, oh, what about Instagram? We could have some opportunities there. Nope, TikTok. So, I mean, a huge thing for Instagram is trying to figure out how to bring Gen Z back to their platform without turning it to Facebook in 15 years. But from a revenue split though, from Instagram and TikTok, we've realized that mostly 85% of the revenue, at least from our creators as a whole, come from Instagram.
Okay.
And if you're just solely TikTok, you have a harder time getting a lot of tractions with brands. If you have a strong diversification between TikTok and Instagram, then there's exponential opportunities.
Interesting.
So the best creators have a diversification of both.
You have a company, it's scaling fast. I assume you're still hyper growth mode.
Yeah.
So you have 85 people. What's the biggest challenge you face? You're running an organization of that size that's growing fast. And did you ever think you'd have that,
So
problem?
I'm sure you're like this too. I've always been somebody who just runs 500 miles per hour when it comes to business stuff. And then I look back and just hope everyone's following along. I think the one thing that I've realized about hypergrowth is how do you keep the company coming along with you and ensuring that like you have all these ideas and plans to kind of change the whole influencer marketing space. Like how do you ensure that your team is able to keep up at the same pace that you want to keep up with? And I think a lot of that's tied back to culture. It's tied back to their environment. It's tied back to how training is done. Are they happy to be there? And I think I spend a lot of my, and I talked to you a little bit about this earlier, is I spend a lot of my time thinking about how can we make our culture the way we want it to be? Like how can we create the people that come into our company? How can we make sure that it's a culture that we want, that we think is inducive of growth, positive attitude, stuff isn't holding you down. You kind of create your own future. Like those same mentality that, client services. I don't think you can teach client services, but the attitude behind it goes a long way. And it's just, if you're in a restaurant and you've got an angry waiter, it ruins your whole experience.
Yeah, it does.
You got a friendly, happy waiter. All of a sudden you're like, I love this restaurant. Food could be marginal. Your waiter can change the whole experience. And being a manager is that same feeling. I mean, how good are they with people? And deals will come, but how good are they in that sense?
So the managing of people.
Yeah, managing of people. And then another thing that I think is a stressor is where do we go next? Like what are the parallel opportunities that come into
Is there anything that you're kind of experimenting with right now? Like where you're like, hey, it'd be interesting to see if we could, as the synergies between what you're doing and maybe what you see as an opportunity.
Yeah, I think we're trying to figure out how to incorporate AI more into our company. And I think people say AI and they think it's just like this cool thing, but for
almost everybody says that.
Yeah.
And thinks it's a cool thing, but nobody knows.
It's really just kind of automation in a fun way. But so last year we did 13,000 campaigns. So we have a lot of data on what rates should be like, what the type of creators people want to work with. Now, how can we put that in some kind of software tool that we can ensure that AI utilizes the data, pops stuff out, and when anybody on our team says, hey, what should the rate be for this specific creator and what the brand should be paying? And based on the contracts, what should it look like? And if we could put that into a chat GPT of our own sort and come back with an answer, then we can prove efficiency in our creator growth, efficiency for our brand campaigns and kind of build something there. And we turn away roughly 200 creators, I would say, every year. A lot of them are micros. Anything less than 100,000 followers.
Yeah, I was going to
typically.
bring this up, but I've submitted my portfolio multiple times. So never got a call back.
Oh, we can make some exceptions. I didn't know that happened.
I'm just joking.
No, I'm kidding.
I'm just.
And we want to find a place to where, and the reason why we typically say like for micros, it doesn't make sense for them to join Trend is because there's not enough deal flow there. Our commission doesn't really make sense for them. Like if, us taking 20% or 15% of whatever deal that's coming in their way, when they're not having that much deal flow because their account isn't really big enough yet, it really is more of a burden on them and doesn't make sense for us to do that. And what makes us unique also is for every talent manager is as a max of 5 clients. Compared to CAA or WME or any of our competitors, they can go 10, 15, 20 clients sometimes. And the reason why is because we have a lot of high volume creators that get a lot of deal flow that we also have capacity to give them good deal flow as well. But it makes sure that our managers have a lot of attention to detail and all of their stuff so that we can make sure we're pitching for the right brands and the right opportunities so they can have that long-term growth. So I think that's a unique thing on our end as well. So because we move away from micros, going back to the original question, I think that this software tool could be a great place for people to become almost like a self-service talent management. One thing that no creator really wants is they don't really want to share what their rates are or what deals they're doing. They just don't want to get out there. They don't want to have the judgment or the feel or whatever it looks like. But if it was a closed space to where they could say, how much should my rates be? And we had all the data on the back end to show them like, well, based on where you are, this is what it looks like. It could over time be a self-service management tool. And I what keeps me up at night is also what does this space look like in 10 years? I mean, the threat is on a SWOT analysis, it become obsolete. A computer could do it if they have all the data. And right now we have all the data. How can we optimize it for our clients?
Yeah,
and our
you're
brands?
saying, hey, the opportunity is in data, technology, AI, right. And the threat is in data, technology, and AI. So
right.
Yeah, it's for many industries, ours included. You kind of, whether you like it or not, you realize that you're in a race.
Yeah.
Yeah, first one wins.
100%. So we have the strongest creators in the industry, at least from a selling perspective, strong converters. And I think that with that data, should be able to create something in software. So you said, what do we think about next? Software is another thing we're kind of tapping into. So ventures is another one. We do a lot of investment with our creators that are interested in doing so. A lot of brand deals come across our table where they want to invest in businesses they believe in. And so there's been a few opportunities for our creators to invest in businesses.
Is that like, I heard a story, I think it was Tom Brady and Under Armour, or LeBron James and Beats by Dre, where it's like, hey, you have a startup apparel company or headphones company. I have this super powerful influencer, could drive sales. If you want her or him to post 3 times, well, we want a quarter point of the company or something to that effect.
That's it, media for equity. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward when you think about it, because a lot of these creators, when it comes to them, like there's a lot of brands that we've seen over the course of 5-10 years build $100 million, $200 million companies off the back of influencer marketing, and really off the backs of maybe 10 or 20 influencers. And those 10 or 20 influencers look back at it and like, well, shoot, they were paying me great.
They got some checks, but man,
whoops.
That equity piece would have been big.
Yeah. So I think that influencers have such a presence on building companies that if you marry them correctly, there's huge opportunity. And a lot of our creators are in the point where it's like, okay, great. They have all the deals that they wanted to work with. They have all the companies they love. What is the next thing for them? And being a part of a company that's growing and building is something that they think about. So that's something we've tapped into as well.
You gotta hire my brother, Clay, man.
Look, Clay's a party. I'd hire Clay just for fun.
Oh, you don't know him then. He's no fun. No, he's got a bunch of followers. I'm always like, man, you should like get more active. He's like, nah, I ain't about that life.
Oh yeah, I think we had to call with Clay's wife. I'm forgetting her name.
Casey.
Yeah. Great. Loved Casey. It was just a phone call, but it was great.
All right, I'll lean into him. I'll just say, man, you got to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah, he actually had an idea, social media idea that I really liked. I don't think he acted on it, but I'll share it with you offline. It's pretty good.
Yeah, good.
Cool.
I'm interested to hear about it.
So let me ask you, when this is more of just a technical question, when one of your clients gets hired and they go to promote a beverage or a hat, like, and they post it, do they have to put in there that it's an advertisement? Like, how do I know they're being paid to do it versus they really truly love something?
Yeah, if it's not a requirement for them to do that specific post, they don't have to do it on that specific post. So for instance, if this protein brand decides to want to work with you.
Core Power.
There you go, Core Power.
Fairlife.
Yeah, we're going to verify that in a little bit. Yeah, Fairlife.
Tell them to send me a check for like $5. Core Power.
What if Core Power does want to work with him? You never know. Yeah, a good opportunity. Yeah, you can add that to your 2-day workout routine.
That's right. I can't add anything at this point. I got 21 days left. I'm about to break. I'm gonna crawl to that finish line.
That's great.
Sorry, what were we saying? Like paid advertising. Like, do they have to disclose it?
Yeah, so they do. I mean, they should have disclosed. The FTC regulations are so broad on it that big corporations will be very strict on it because they just don't want to violate it at all.
Yeah.
But they literally say it just has to be known that you're working with them in some capacity. And then they'll say things like, can it be like this? Well, that's not very explicit. Try this. And then they just...
It's like, brought to you by Pfizer.
Yeah.
You know that Joe Rogan always does that?
Yeah.
You get some pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah. So they do have to disclose it. People have... It's a funny thing because we try to tell this is why we tell influencers to be as organic as possible with the brands they work with. Because the second they see that hashtag ad or hashtag Core Power partner,
sure,
they're immediately going to just click past.
Got it.
Or just be like, this is just, and so what the Core Power cares about is how many clicks you got. So how do you keep them there engaged? Because you do believe in the product, but if they've seen you drinking Core Power on this podcast, for every podcast that you've had, all of a sudden they work with you, they're like, yeah, dude, obviously this guy loves Core Power. It's about time they came and paid him, right?
That's what I'm talking about.
So then that's one of those things where it's an organic fit. So that's what we try to do with our creators. It's organic fit. Therefore, they get strong return on it. They get recurring business. They get to build.
All right, I'm going to ask you a question.
Basis.
Everybody wants me to ask you, whether they're in real estate or they love fashion or anything in between, what advice, and this is your literal business, like you're the expert, okay?
Yeah.
What advice would you have for them to start building, quote unquote, their brand or start their journey to influencing, like, I'm sure everybody, even my son, he's in 8th grade. He's like, what do you want to do? And I want to be a YouTuber or something.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, that's not a real job.
It's like the number
Turns out it is a real job.
Yeah, I was going to say it's the number one new career path is being an influencer.
Oh, so great.
Yeah.
So happy to be a parent.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a few things. One, you've got to know what you have a passion for, and you have to give them a reason why to follow you for it. So if your passion is, for instance, fashion, you kind of have to give them a reason why you're an expert in the space or how you can help them in some capacity.
Credibility or track record.
Credibility, track record, or you're just good at finding deals if you are somebody who's providing them like a fashion thing. So if you don't have credibility, track record to tell them why they should dress a certain way, you have to prove that to them.
So credibility and track record is an accelerator.
100%. I mean, think about people who talk about, anything medical online. I used to be a doctor. I am a doctor. Immediately you're tuning in, right? Or if you're a fitness influencer, if
a real estate influencer
or a real estate influencer, right? Like, what have you done that makes me want to listen to you? I mean, like we talked about Ryan Serhant, like his portfolio kind of breathes why you want to listen to him a little bit because of what he's been able to do. And so whether it's helpful content for you or not, you're just like, he's an interesting guy that has a real strong career. So I want to be like that.
So credibility and track record, that helps. I always say, look, you got to give the world a reason to value your opinion before you start giving the world your unsolicited opinion. Let's say in the unlikely event, some young men and women choose not to listen to that advice.
Yeah.
How would you recommend they go about, you touched on it, building that follower, building that platform?
One thing is you have to have passion for it because you're going to have to be persistent in it. It doesn't happen overnight. One post isn't going to get you 1,000 followers. In fact, if you follow anybody online, the reason why I think you're attracted to them or you keep following them is because they keep posting, they keep popping up. And if the stuff is engaging enough, meaning it's something that you want to follow or they're interesting enough or they have a good take on something, then they're more likely to have a consistent follower. Now, it's the typical Instagram algorithm. The more eyes you get on a certain post, the more likely they're going to share that post with somebody else. The more shares it gets, the more likely someone else is going to see that and share it with somebody else. So really, if you don't provide anything that's viral, so to speak, or anything that provides anything of quality, so there's two aspects of it. Virality doesn't mean that you're actually growing an audience. It just means that more eyes are seeing you. What you really want to do if you want to make an influencer space is grow an audience. So then the next part is, what's your credibility? So if you're somebody who can provide value to an audience, if you're in the real estate space, for instance, what value can you provide? Your audience is going to keep them coming back to check in on Kyle Matthews. That's what they're going to come back for. And when the stuff pops up, that's why they're going to like it. They're like, this is great. I like this one. I like the next one, whatever happens. If you're going in it and you're just kind of figuring things out and going through it, then you better be persistent because it's going to take you 2 to 3 years to figure out what exactly is working. It's
work.
Yeah, it is work. And I think the ones that we've seen most successful, like I showed him your account earlier. I showed you his account earlier, like Dad Social. Dad Social, Mason Smith, is somebody who just knows, he just knows how to do stuff with his hands, and he knows how it makes sense for people that are watching him. He's so creative with it. And like everything that he does, and I joke with him all the time that I take my wife's phone and I block his account because it's like stuff that like, how do you make your own gym? How do you all of a sudden put a whole thing in your backyard for your children? How do you build a train set for them, and like an actual train set for them? Like those things that are.
Well, make sure Dad Social does some shit for me with his hands for that plug we just gave him. He's about to pick up some new followers.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, yeah. I mean, if he posts this, and then you're going to be in great hands. But
there you go. What's up, Dad Social? Mason Graham?
Mason Smith.
Mason Smith.
He's just an overall good guy. But I use him as an example for somebody who understands what it means to put in the work, because I think it is so much work, and he makes it look so effortless.
Yeah.
But he's so thoughtful. His content is absolutely engaging. It is so unique, and people aspire to try to do what he's doing. But it's because he provides a unique perspective on his life, a unique perspective on how he can do things, and he's just talented at it. So if you're talented at something, great, put it on the internet and make it work a little bit, and it's going to take some effort to kind of grow that. But
what advice would you have for the audience in general? It doesn't have to necessarily be social media related. In drawing upon your experience, just from a professional standpoint, to however they quantify success, to go out and achieve this success. I think there are a lot of people. I don't think there's anyone out there who doesn't have a dream or dream big. Right. There's so many who don't even take the first step.
Yeah.
Whether it's fear or not knowing how, it just never happens for them. For you. You saw an opportunity, you jumped right away, even somewhat in the face of a cultural dynamic that might not have been as well received within the family.
Sure, yeah.
It doesn't appear you got kind of hit with that hesitation syndrome, but a lot of people do. What advice would you have for the audience in terms of like just going out and just making it happen?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I have a lot of things I think I would say, but I think the reason why I was willing to make the jump is I had confidence in myself to do the job. And
where does that confidence come from?
And I think that confidence comes from a multitude of things. I think it comes from seeing the work that I was going to put into trend management being translated very well into like HP and other places where I saw my career growth, I think work very well because I was a people person. I also did a lot of contract work. I also was able to get feedback from people that I was good at my job. So having that good feedback loop from people that this can be done and also doing a good market analysis on like what potential could be gave me the confidence to go and do it. So confidence in yourself is not just like I believe in myself, I can do it. Like, are you confident enough that you'll do a good job at what you're doing? And are you actually are you filling in a gap somewhere? Because if I start a management company and say, what's different about you? Well, I do the same thing the other guy does, but I'm smarter than them. That might work. But you have to fill something there. You have to be confident that you're going to be good enough to do that specific job and that it can be something that's long-term and sustainable. I think people just see an opportunity to jump in and make money real quick. And sometimes that works great and they can do that. But like, what's your confidence level to go in and make money based on your skill set on what the job is asking you to do? Once you feel confident in that, then do it. If, I was never going to open up a restaurant. And also like that for me, I always felt everything that I wanted to do, I've always wanted to look for opportunities that had kind of like this uncapped ceiling. Like can I work myself and bring value in a certain space that's not going to cap me at a certain point where I'm like, okay, now what? And I feel like in this space that I'm in or starting your own business like this in social media space, there isn't really a ceiling. It's kind of like a what's next? Like, what are the opportunities? How do we scale? How do we continue to grow? And that excites me. So confidence in myself is something that I know I'll be motivated by long term. If you're not motivated by the thing that you're working on, then how long you're not gonna be very persistent.
It's hard to be successful at something like
yeah you're not gonna. And after 3 months of it, like I tell everyone this, I started January 7th. By March I had $2,000 in our trend bank account, and it's because the 30, 60, 90 term dates, I didn't have anything I had no cash. And so I was like, all right, well, this is the part where I started dipping into my savings a little bit. So I started dipping into savings, and I couldn't hire my first employee.
You had to go all in.
Yeah, and I had to dip into my savings, and basically I didn't hire my first employee until 10 months in. And I think I offered her like 40. I was begging her. I was like, trust me, there's money in this. It's coming in.
You're gonna meet famous people.
I'm like, just please work with me. And her name's Courtney. She's still at the company today. She heads up our manager division. But I was like, just take a chance. She definitely was overqualified for the pay that I was giving her. But she took a chance. And I think now that she's like one of the key culture pieces in our company. But there's just so much, like there was not much, the money was taking forever to come in for me to build it. I didn't want to take any debt. My mom was anti-debt for years. That's how I learned all my financial stuff because her dad passed away when she was 13. He was big in real estate, but had a lot of debt. And they came back.
Yeah, it happens.
And they came and they just took everything she had. And so she's been scarred by debt forever. So didn't want to start a company off of debt. Wanted to make sure we were debt free. So I bootstrapped it all the way through. So people ask like, well, if you could go back and change something. Yeah, I wish I could have hired earlier and didn't decline all the influencers that I declined very early on. But at the same time, it kind of made us that exclusive feel.
That's right.
That accidentally
bootstrapping self-funded companies, dude. Right. I know that. I live that life.
Yeah, it's scary.
The first couple of years are just tough because you can only grow as fast as the money comes in. If it comes in, but like if the money comes in, there's always a million things that you want to do. And let's just say a lot of those ideas are good and they are the right decision. But capital is like, hey, like I have X millions of dollars to deploy this year in terms of investment. Do I do it in facilities? Do I do it in technology? Do I do it in personnel? Yeah.
And also it has to do with, I think, right place, right time. I mean, like I can't credit the success of trend just because like, oh yeah, I found a niche and I was really good at it. That's part of it. But like the timing of COVID, the timing of, Dede actually growing a following, the timing of Dede's friend Emily, who was the first to basically sign on and helped me actually help recruit some of our first influencers. Like the timing of all that had to come in at the perfect moment for this actually to work out the way it did. But being able to take it from step 1 to step 5 is really where I think that then you have to put in the motivation to work.
What are your motivations today? What drives you?
I think that the main driver for me, I think in trend in general, is one, I like to build things, but also I like to fix things. And I think the frustration of how other management companies do things and how creators just always were nagging about how the space was being handled motivated me to be the best management company for creators on the market, bar none. And so what does that mean is every year we have to change our goalposts because management companies are going to try to mimic us. And they have simple things like putting an end of year strategy deck together to tell our creators like, hey, this is what we're going to do next year. And 2 years from there, we're looking at your long-term trajectory. This is how we're going to strategize with you. No management company was doing that. No management company was sitting down with their creators talking about their long-term growth. Now they better because they all know we do it, right? And so then now all these management companies are adjusting and pivoting. Our 5-to-1 ratios. Other companies are putting on the website, we have the lowest ratio in the company. When you ask them, they don't, but they know that we promise it, we show it, and they're trying to mimic it. That's the hard part. So now we have to keep moving the goalposts. How can we keep creating value for our creators? Motivating factor for me was fixing a problem that I knew needed to be fixed. One, my wife is in the industry, but I just felt like the management space was predatory, and I just wanted to fix that a little bit. I didn't like how it was being done, and I think that's a space that helps creators if done effectively, and that's what I wanted to do.
What's the end goal for you as it relates to trend management, trend social?
Yeah, I wrestle with this a lot. I think as long as I'm the best capable person to continue to build that mission, then I will continue to build it as much as I can. I've had offers to sell in the past. They've been offers that, of course, like I can retire forever and figure out what to do with it and call you for real estate questions and do all kinds of stuff. But I've never felt very comfortable with who has offered me those opportunities. Even if it's like, hey, well, just buy 30% of the company. You still own it. You still whatever.
Yeah,
but I mean, you're still going to be on the board. You're still going to give all my suggestions on how I need a 5-to-1 stupid. We could grow a ton more if we did 10-to-1 and do all these things. It's like not true to who we are. So I felt like my motto is money is part of the motivator. Really more the motivator now for me is flexibility, lifestyle, and if I'm enjoying it. So right now I have as much flexibility as I want to have. I pack in all my meetings on Wednesdays. My buddies make fun of me for it. I'm like,
Today Wednesday?
Today's Tuesday.
Oh, dude, I feel special. Thank you for that.
No, you know what? I made it just special day just for you.
Thank you. I was like, wait, is today Wednesday? All right. When you're not doing podcasts, Wednesday's your meeting day.
Wednesday's my meeting day. Monday, Tuesdays might go in and just hang around the office a little bit. The culture part that I was trying to talk about, just checking in on people, making sure everything is okay. Yeah. Also strategizing with people on how things are going. I found my weeks filling up with meetings so much that I had no idea what was actually going on the ground. Because when I started managing creators. I managed 9 creators. I broke my own rule. That's why I said you can only do 5. There's no way you can do 9.
Too much.
Way too much. And they're all doing 20 to 30 campaigns a month. I mean, you do that math over every month. I mean, you're working on 180 deals. Like all of a sudden, you're like, what's going on? So, and Dede actually, funny enough, Rosie was born in August. I didn't hire my first employee until October. It was a huge launch going on the day of her birth. On August 20th. I think the launch day was August 19 or August 21st, whatever it is. I was getting phone calls about the launch. And she looked at me and she's like, if you don't hire somebody soon, I swear to God, this is going to be, I'm like, okay, yes, ma'am. So it was just too much. So anyways, so I forgot what the question was. What's the future of trend? I don't know how you got on this subject.
Well, what are your drivers? What are your motivators?
I think
you touch on improving the industry. You felt like there's a better way to do it for the influencers. You also were touching on money's a motivator, what creating wealth.
That's right.
Yeah. No.
So money's a motivator, but it's not the end all be all. Like I think there's a time, and some people may agree with me, where there's a certain amount of money that you have that you're fine. And there's of course you can have a ton more money, but then what am I going to do after that? I'm probably going to want to find something again that I'm going to do. Like I'm going to build another business or I'm going to start another something. So am I going to fix something? I don't know what that is. I don't have a what's next for me in that space. And I don't know anyone that's going to come in and do a better job than what we're doing in this influencer space. So for me, it's the flexibility of being able to be with my family when I want to be with my family, work when I feel like it's very important to work, join when I need to. And that's thanks to an incredible team that I've hired around me. I think that's kind of my motivators now is really flexibility on being able to do what I want to do and the side projects that I want to jump on. Like I want to do this software thing and I want to do the next venture thing and I want to do the next, merch line or whatever it is. Like there's all these ideas that we want to do, but
for now, keep scaling, keep growing, keep doing the thing.
Yeah. I think now it's just where can this take us? And I've always believed that all the ideas that I have, it may be good, but is it great is kind of the motto. Like, can we build great things as we go along?
My last question is I'll kind of answer it in 2 parts. Like, you don't have a board, right?
No board.
And your dad is.
I technically have a board. My wife, she's a creator. I hear it all the time.
Yeah, we all have that board. And that's a powerful board.
Yeah. Well, she's technically a client on our roster.
Well, I tell everyone my wife's my number one client.
Yeah, there you go. So it's like,
and she is.
Yeah.
And so without a board, your dad, what did he do for a living?
So he was a doctor. He also has a nonprofit, which is he does medical missions all across the Middle East. So he's got mobile clinics all over the rural places of Lebanon. So I kind of blame him for this. Like, you're the original entrepreneur.
Yeah, I was going to say, even though that's nonprofit. So definitely you could get operational guidance and development and coaching there. And where I'm going, ultimately, my last question is, where do you go to grow your skills and be developed and proactively learn? Are there people that influence you? Is there some sort of organization you're a part of? Is there a book or a series that you watch? And or what advice would you have for the audience for them to develop their skill sets to, not only just launch and start a company, but scale it and operate it at the level of degree you have? Yeah,
great question. So about 2 years into Trend, I realized quickly that I may be quite over my head on the business that I was building, essentially. I mean, we had hockey stick growth. We were trying to figure out what to do. I came from HP, which, you're very siloed into what your job is. So luckily, my director at HP at the time, before I left, he had left a year before me to do it. It became an executive coach. And he was very influential for me at the time because of how he managed, I think, our team, and how he was young. I think he was like 32 or 33 when he was like the senior director of like our team. And he just had a knack with working with people and figuring stuff out. And he left probably but 2 years before I left to start his own executive coach thing. When he left to become an executive coach, no one knew what that was. I mean, what is an executive coach? Beats me. So at the time I left, I'm like, I don't know what that is. But then I remembered him, middle of COVID, sitting there saying, okay, I don't know what to do next. I don't know what the next big thing is. Looking for courses or classes, but like, I really just wanted to ask him straight up, like, can you just look at my stuff?
Just tell me what to do.
Yeah, tell me, like, help me. Like, this is what I'm thinking. Am I wrong? Am I right? Like, what are the next steps here? So I called him, and he doesn't work with clients like me. Like, I always joke I'm his pet project. Like, but he's worked with, name your big CEO. He's worked with him. He's based out of Austin and kind of has all the connections up there. But because of our connection at HP, he was like, you know what? I'll work with you. I'm excited. It's a different space that I'm not usually in. Let's check this out. So he was pivotal, and I think helping me understand, because I wanted to bring a partner in early. And he's like, why do you want to bring a partner in? I'm like, I don't know. I think they could help. And he goes, but do you think you can do it without them? I'm like, yeah, I think so. And so he's like, all right, let's do it without them. And I'm like, okay, cool. Because I would have probably just brought the partner in. I had no idea. And do I give him 50%, 10%, 12%, whatever it is? And so I think he guided me along the way to say, certain decisions that I had, either yes, it's a good instinct, or walk me through why you think that is a good instinct. And so he for me was great. I always promote, if you find a good executive coach, if you're starting off on your own, it goes a long way just to bounce ideas off of, because it is lonely at the top. I think your whole team looks to you for answers for a lot of things. And, my mother-in-law used to call me, she passed away, but she used to call me like, you're just a bullshitter, Ted. Because I used to just like, people ask me tough questions.
You got your wife to say yes.
Yeah. Probably that was the problem. But basically, my team will tell me, like, hey, this thing is happening. What should we do? And I'll say it very confidently and straightforward. And then they'll leave, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, is this the right thing? That's half of leadership,
just making it up. But they don't know that.
Yeah, exactly. They don't know. So they look. But then when they ask you that question, you're like, I want to talk to somebody about this. Like, how do I bounce off those ideas off of somebody to make sure that I'm going in the right direction, if it makes sense? He was a great, I think, person for me to do that.
You'd also like put in that category of mentor, which is like a coach you don't have to pay.
Yeah. So I think mentors are great too. And I think he was able to be both because he has history with me. He kind of knew where I come from. So he was a great person for me there. He's still there for me. And as the problems have become bigger, he's well worth his rate. That's what I always like to say. But I think that was a pivotal aspect for me. I've also done, I went through an executive coaching series, executive training series. Sorry, it was with Stegan. Mm-hmm. There was a 1-year course. They brought you through all the different types of leadership. It's for executives. I'm putting my executive team through that now. It was a great way to, we talked about like the victim mindset. We talked about how to be, are you being a hero or a rescuer? Like what exactly, how are you working through things? And that it's a big mindset shift, I think, when you're working. and talking about the ladder of inference and all these things. And I'm like, oh, they're finally putting like titles to things I'm thinking about.
Terminology.
Exactly.
Kind of helps frame it.
And
victim mentality is no bueno.
Oh yeah. And it's tough to see. And it's also tough when you catch yourself in it sometimes. And you're like, am I walking this route? Like, how can I get myself out of it and, move away from victim into a creator? So
there's a great book, Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. If you haven't checked out it, it touches on the concept of victim mentality. But
yeah. Well, the book that we were reading was called the Power of TED, which I like to tout. Like, hey, there's some power to.
It's a
TED.
sign.
It's the only power of TED, probably, but it's a good book.
Well, there's power TED. I mean, just look at what you've been able to accomplish over the last 5 years. Obviously, alongside you, your wife Dede. I can't thank you enough for coming on. I'm happy to have a local Nashvilleian. Congratulations on all your success. Again, like it seems like you guys are just getting rolling, and you have a long runway in an industry that, from every sense of the world, is exploding and just continuing to grow. So there's a lot of runway for you. I'm excited to watch what you do, and hopefully you can give us some tips over here, right?
Well, likewise, I think we'll do a tips for tips lunch, if you don't mind.
Well, I already gave you. What do you do when you buy real estate? Location. Take the lower yield, buy the better location. We'll do it for the long game.
Yeah.
No one who ever, and let me say this in reverse. Anyone who bought well-located real estate over a long enough period of time always looks like a genius.
Yeah.
Like, man, how did you know to buy this? It's like, well, it's the best corner on the best block.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
So buy location, and then I'll get some tips for you after. But again, I appreciate you coming on. This was super fun.
Likewise. Pleasure to be on. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ted.
All right. Thank you.